can't talk to a narcissist. You cannot get them to see that they're the problem. They are never the problem, not just with you, with anyone. So what is talking going to do except for give them more ammo to gaslight you with, more opportunities to manipulate you with, more time to affect you with that venom? You need to run. Quit thinking you can talk your way out of a narcissistic abuse relationship. You cannot.
Welcome to the CWC podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it very, very much. As a matter of fact, give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Now, you saw the clip in the beginning. Ace Metaphor. Check out his TikTok page. He's a really good motivational speaker. I've actually used and referenced some of his videos for a couple of our shows. So check him out. He's a motivational speaker. But you saw there what he was telling you, and that kind of tipped our hat to what today's show is going to be. So last week we had narcissism, and what is it? We defined it. We spoke about it. We identified some key traits, some key characteristics of the narcissistic behavior. We talked about the narcissistic types. We talked about grandiose, and we talked about the meek. It's not actually meek, but the
abandonment,
the non-grandiose, more meek version of the narcissist. So we defined those two things. Yeah,
a quieter type.
Right. And we covered several bullet points on just, we referenced a couple of clips where you saw people that were actually in. In fact, if you stayed to the end of the last video, you saw the actual narcissist who's been diagnosed with narcissistic disorder behavior. And he actually tells you, gives you some insight from his mouth, from the horse's mouth, as far as, how narcissistic people use tactics and things to manipulate you.
Yes.
Which is also what Ace Metaphor just spoke about. So, with all that being said, we are back once again, CWC podcast. Hey, we're going to keep grinding. 2023, we're happy to be here, but we're just getting started. This is the home of entrepreneurship, modern dating, interpersonal relationships, and much more.
So much more.
So much more. So we're going to continue to grow with you guys throughout the years really ahead. With that being said, Amina.
Okay.
Now, based on some of the comments and feedback, some people have seen the video. Mm-hmm. Your take came off as quite personal, where, for you had some relationship in the past where, people could kind of tell that, man, she's really got some insight on this. So now that, based on last week's, first of all, what did you learn from last week's video?
What did I learn? Well, I learned that there's only one treatment.
Okay.
And which was, it's a letdown for the person that is in love with a narcissist, because you really believe at some point you're begging and pleading for them to understand you or admit to what they're doing, and they're not. So that's kind of sad that there is really no resolution. You either learn to live with it because you love the person and that's kind of how they are and they're not going to change, or you salvage the rest of your life and you run and you salvage the rest of your life. So,
So
that's how it felt to me.
Okay, good. Because what we're going to learn today, there actually is a path forward. So the key to it is awareness. That's number one. So let's say that you've discovered that you're in a narcissistic relationship, right? You identify it based on what you learned. Like if you read the WebMD article and some of the examples, you should now have a pretty good idea of what narcissism is. And if you're in a relationship with one by now, right? I mean, if you're younger, it might take a little longer for you to figure it out. But by now, if you understand the traits, now we don't want to jump the gun because some people have narcissistic traits that they aren't full-blown narcissists. So it can be a balancing act. But if the behavior is erring on the side of, more narcissism than not, then they're probably just.
Well, yeah, because at that point now you're just in like these muddy gray waters. You're like, traits? Is it?
Yeah.
That's too much to figure out.
It's too much to figure out, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, all right, I've made some notes here. guys, to talk about how do you deal with a narcissist. So this is part 2, obviously, of the show from last week. Now, how do you deal with a narcissist? How do you fix, so to speak, a narcissist? Well, you can't fix them, but you can bring awareness.
And there's no medication.
No, so there are. It's kind of it's like a generic. People get on antidepressants, mood altering things to try to kind of help them feel different.
Yeah.
Like it's not for narcissism, right? But it's to make them just feel different, right? So that maybe if they feel different,
then they'll treat people differently.
Different. Yes. Yes. There you go. Exactly.
Maybe they'll have empathy.
Yeah, maybe. And some people, Adderall is one thing that I read about. A lot of people do take it.
Mm.
That not for all kinds of different personality disorders. Like people take it because some people, they say it mellows them out. Like some people who.
Well, if you're up here, then it brings you down here. Like for the high strung ADD, ADHD, then it'll level them down. And then if you're depressed or depressed bipolar, it should bring you up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So people take it specifically because they say, okay, I know something's wrong with me, and they take the Adderall, and it just makes them feel better. It kind of evens them out. So
if you're normal, so to speak,
yeah,
then you'll get high from the Adderall, and it'll make you, study hard or stay up for day or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have a disorder, it'll level you out.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. So Adderall is one thing, like I said, that people do take for not just, like I said, for narcissism, but for any kind of mental health issue that they may be battling. So now that we know what a narcissist is, how do we deal with one? Well, like I said, awareness is the biggest key. If the narcissist is aware of their behavior, there's a path to potentially fixing it. But this is probably the hardest bullet point of all, getting them to actually admit to it and realize, like, oh man, yeah, I do have these traits.
Yeah.
I do these things. That's the hardest part, because you're asking them to admit, that there's something wrong with them. They don't think there's anything wrong with them.
But what if they go to treatment, they find out they have these traits, they have this issue, they have narcissism, and then they have awareness of it, but then use their diagnosis as a way to then also keep you locked into their world by saying, well, I'm sick.
That happens a lot. That's manipulative behavior. That's the manipulative behavior that we talked about, and we'll continue to talk about today. So with that being said, let's say, like you said, you want to address the problem. Mm-hmm. You're coming home from work today, and you're like, I'm going to talk to him today, right? Oh, yeah. Today's the day, and you've been planning it all day. You went over the script in your head. Oh, yeah. You might have wrote down what you're going to say, right? Because you've been waiting to have this talk, right? Watch your wording, though. You can't come at them aggressively if you want to fix it. Understand what I'm saying here? If you want to fix the problem, you can't come at them aggressive. You can't. They don't react to criticism well at all. So you have to come to them with kid gloves. You have to come to them basically almost hat in hand, and being very careful with your words to approach this situation.
It's very frustrating because you have to approach the narcissist as if you've done something wrong.
Yes.
And they're the one that you're coming to explain to them what they've done that hurt you, offended you, made you feel bad, left out, inconsiderate, whatever. Yeah. But you have to go to them as if you're, please, will you listen to me? Will you read this? Will you? Yeah.
Yes, correct. You're right. You're 100% right. It is frustrating, but you're right. Yeah. If you want to fix it, you have to. All these bullet points I'm reading to you are from the WebMD article that I'm going to leave in the description box. I recommend take a look at it and read it. Very informative. So we know, stay calm. It talks about try not to react if that person tries to gaslight you and tries to get you into an argument, and because they already know, they've already figured it out. We talked about it on the last show. They have already figured out what makes you tick already.
Your emotional triggers, and they will actually call you out of line, hyper, crazy. What are you bitching about now? before you're even
Mhm.
dishing. They'll call you out to be something you're not, and which you have to stay calm, because once they get your emotion going, they'll say, "See, she's crazy. She's a crazy one. I didn't do anything wrong."
So stay calm. Don't react to the gaslighting. It actually even says if they lash out at you, it says treat them as a 3-year-old who feels rejected because his parents set a bedtime. Like treat them that way. Like it may come off to them even as condescending, right? But so what? You're not. You're being very calm,
Yeah.
right? Create a support system because it says living with a narcissist can lead you to feelings of insecurity, confusion, self-doubt. Make sure you have a core group of people in your life that can support you. So that goes back to like what we've said in a lot of the videos is by now the people who are around you should be the people who are helping you grow in life. If anyone is around you that's not helping you do that, you shouldn't have that person.
Yeah, but a lot of the times in a relationship with a narcissist, they've already created a scenario or a world where you might not have all that much support,
Mhm.
and people don't believe you, and
Mhm.
because they come across as, as if they're on the outside, they're not doing anything wrong. On the outside, you're the only one that feels what they're doing because they're not doing it to everybody else.
Mhm.
So you don't have anyone to really talk to. And then when you do, they don't believe you, because on the outside looking in, what have they really done? They're not hitting you.
Mhm.
They're not cheating on you.
Yeah.
They're in the house with you, paying the bills with you. They're with you.
Mhm.
But they don't know the mental and verbal kind of manipulation and neglect that comes
Mhm.
with being with a narcissist. It's very personal, and you almost feel like you're there by yourself.
Okay. Good point. And it can be difficult because what happens is you get painted into a corner because like they say they may have already set the stage. The narcissist will call people in the family and plant seeds. This is part of the manipulative behavior.
Most definitely.
They'll
call a
they'll
bunch of
drop
people.
little seeds. They'll say, well, she's crazy, or he's crazy, and and this is what I'm dealing with. And they'll do a lot of complaining like that to other people so that the foundation is already set. So that when that person finally gets tired of the narcissistic behavior, you're already painted into a corner because that person's already laid that foundation. So everybody's looking at you. Well, he tells us everything that he does for you. What are you complaining about? He does A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
He's a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Just that this is a good man. He hasn't done anything physically, outwardly, that anyone can see.
Mm-hmm. Because think about this. There's a lot of women that are dealing with physical abuse.
Right.
So to them, what you're dealing with is nothing.
Exactly.
They're looking at you like, okay, so he's emotionally unavailable. Join the club. Right?
Yeah. It's psychological and emotional abuse, in my opinion. It really is. It really makes you feel, you second guess yourself. Self-doubt is big.
Absolutely. It talks about here, because like I said, all these things, insecurity, confusion, self-doubt, all that happens when you're living with the narcissist.
Maybe it is me.
Absolutely.
Maybe it is me.
Now, this is what we touched on last week, which you mentioned you actually did. It talks about bringing in a counselor, and it talks about, now it says therapy won't cure your partner's narcissism. However, it may help you work certain issues out. So if you have some key issues, like there's like those couple, 2-3 things that you guys are always banging heads on, counseling may help you get past those things. But then I think there's other things that are waiting after that, though, right? Like that's so. So they basically just say that the counselor can help you formulate a problem-solving plan potentially. But again, I've never been through counseling. You have, so
I don't think talk therapy works. That's just my personal opinion. You're bringing up old conversations, old feelings, old memories, and reigniting them and getting that momentum going again. And then you're supposed to be able to go home and be fine with it. But how can you be? You just
Right.
Yeah, even though you got it all out, but still, it's like you reignited that old feeling, and talk therapy regurgitates old feelings and memories that didn't make you feel good. And they do it on every visit.
Yeah. So you rehashed specific incidents?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
That's
you're going
why
there to talk. You're going there to get it out. And this bothered me and this bothered me. So yeah.
I guess that's why I never did do any counseling, because I just
You're trying to get that person to hear you now for the things that they
Yeah.
didn't hear you for.
Okay.
And you're trying to get the apology from the narcissist, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the therapist can get him or her to give me the specific apology that I acknowledge me.
Not the general, I'm sorry for whatever I did, like we talked on the last video. Whatever I did that made you feel bad, I apologize. That's their way of not taking accountability for it. They're simply saying, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't really do anything wrong, though.
I'm sorry you feel bad.
But whatever I did that may have upset you,
yeah,
I apologize. That's as insincere and arrogant and narcissistic as you can get.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that right now. If that's what you get from the person, guess what? Get out of there. I mean, that's ultimately what's probably going to happen anyway, because the next bullet point talks about don't argue or confront. Again, the first bullet point, don't make it into I'm going to go stand my ground tonight and I'm going to get nose to nose with her in the kitchen. Okay? Don't do that. You don't want crows flying over dead bodies anywhere. But don't do this. Because that's what we want to do. That's the natural feeling, like because we're angry because we built. You might have even stayed up late last night, mad about this, right?
Well, yeah, you lose sleep over a narcissistic relationship.
You lose a lot of sleep over it, actually. So it talks about don't confront it directly. You may have to tiptoe around them a bit.
No, you will tiptoe around them.
Mm-hmm.
You will have an eggshells relationship.
Yeah, you will. If you stay. See, now listen, because I want to bring, because sometimes, listen, guys, sometimes we just love the person, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes like people can tell you over and over again, like you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave, but you just love the person. You're going to stay.
You keep trying.
And you just keep trying anyway. So if this is what you're going to do, I'm not telling you to do it or not to do it. I'm just telling you if you're going to do it, you need to follow these guidelines and approach it, because just winging it is not going to work. You heard Ace metaphor at the beginning. You cannot talk your way out of this. Stop thinking this. And some of you are watching right now thinking, oh, we'll have a real strong talk tonight. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No, because you'll get them to agree with you broadly so that they can keep the world intact. That's the only time that they'll do that. They don't want to lose what they've got or what you can provide for them.
Mm-hmm. It talks about don't try to direct them. It's that narcissists like to have control and they fear losing it. So if you try to direct them and give them, you're going to set ultimatums, basically.
Ooh.
That's not going to work.
No,
that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's actually going to backfire.
They can stonewall you a lot longer.
Yes.
They can ignore you a lot longer. They can, if it's a standoff,
you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. If it's like the
you'll
okay
break
corral.
First because you're not a narcissist. You're not like that. So you'll break first.
You heard in the clip. Your brain, that was what I didn't understand about it. Your brain doesn't work the same way as theirs. Like, well, once you actually can grasp what that actually means, and it's just not something someone throws out, but it actually means something. They don't perceive empathy and things like that the way that your brain does. So they really can't empathize with you. They're not doing it on purpose. It's just how they are.
They can pretend to empathize in the moment if they feel threatened in the way of their world coming apart.
Collapsing.
You leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So don't expect deep, meaningful conversation or communication because narcissists have very little empathy. Honest, heartfelt communication often doesn't get through. And it might even create an angry outburst or a shutdown response. Yeah, that could definitely happen. You know, you're that guy. You're finally going to pour your heart out, and you're going to tell her that this was what, and I'm sorry, and this is what's been crushing me. And you're going to sit there and
you're
tell her.
You're not going to get the response that you think that you would get from your heartfelt plea. So depending on the type of narcissist, the grandiose is going to give you the angry outburst.
Yeah. It's going to make, actually what's going to happen is they're going to make you feel guilty for everything in your life. They're going to tell you, they're going to say, what are you depressed about? You have this, you have that, you have this, you have that. Oh my God, there's people in the world with no food and water, and you're worried about that. We talked about in the first video, they're going to minimize your wants and needs, and theirs are maximized to the hilt. Yeah. That's how their brain works, people. I want you to understand this. This is how their brain actually works.
Yeah.
Your wants and needs almost mean nothing. Real talk. Almost nothing. Because in their mind, the world just is different to them. It is what it is.
They will give you what you feel you need or deserve in the way of feelings and wants intermittently. Yeah. When their back's against the wall, or when they feel like you're starting to pull away or feel disappointed or something. And I call it fishing. It's like the bobber, and you're out there and you're on the line and you're bobbing and things are kind of okay. And then you get pulled down and down and down. They see you start to sink. They just reel you in a little bit and bring it in. And then you're kind of bobbing again. And then you just start drifting back out.
You never feel secure. You're always on where are we doing this? It's never a comfortable feeling when you're with the narcissist, right? Yeah. Do not go over past issues. It talks, which is why, this contradicts with the getting a counselor, because you just told me that they're going to bring up old past issues.
Because they'll also, God love you if you've been 100% honest with your narcissist, because they will use anything that you've told them against you with this past issues thing. Mm-hmm. They'll reach back and it's distraction from the topic at hand. Mm-hmm. And they'll use something really old that you did or said, or somebody else, another scenario. It's a distraction. Yeah. And they'll run you in kind of circles away from your main point. And that's how you never get the specific apology. Uh-huh.
So you're going to lose. You're going to lose. No matter what tactic you try, you're probably going to lose, because it's just a losing battle at the end of the day. And it says here, the last bullet point, it talks about people with narcissistic personality disorder usually don't change. They don't. That was a piece that I wanted to give you for sure from because most medical experts will tell you, chances are that person is not going to change. Like they'll just tell you this truth, like straight up.
And it's like no matter what they go through, you'll leave them. They can even go through tough times. Yeah, and you would think that, okay, this is the time that's going to really, they're going to come out different this time.
No, no, they're going to continue to do the same thing. I'm telling you. Yeah. And like I said, now some people, like I said, they find ways to even it out. They find ways. Adderall has helped some people. I watched some stories on that where people who realize that there are accountable narcissists. There you find them all over. Go look on social media. They're there, and they'll tell you and I respect that at least, because at least you're saying, okay, listen, I know what I am. I know how my behavior impacts people. It's hard for me to change, but I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I take trying.
I'll take that all day versus the arrogance of somebody just sitting there basically looking at you saying, I ain't going to change, Holmes.
I am what I am.
So this is what it is, my brother. So guess what? Get out of there.
They will tell you that they love you, but I am what I am. They're not going to.
And they're telling the truth. They're not lying. No, they'll tell you the truth. Like they're actually telling the truth. But
they think is love. I mean, I think they love you.
And they do.
Yeah. Their form.
They do. They interpret love differently too. That's the other thing. Because they lack the empathy, they don't feel love the same way.
The compassion.
Yeah. This is part of the disorder, guys. This is all real stuff here. Like, I mean, this is all real stuff. I learned a ton from these 2 episodes that we've done, just based on the research. I read all these articles in their entirety, the doctor's notes and things for patients that they had interviewed, and just because I wanted to understand it even more and more. And the more that I understand it now, I feel like I have a really good grip on it now.
And it helps you get some closure, because you spend years analyzing that relationship and trying to figure out, what happened to me? What did I go through? And if you don't have anybody that understands, like, thank God for, communities like TikTok. There's a whole host of people talking about narcissistic relationships that they were in and have gotten out of, and sharing. And at least we have that, because if you got to have somebody to talk to, or people that you can resonate with, so that you don't feel alone, like you're going through it by yourself.
I mean, look, man, like, there's Reddit groups, there's different forums because people, when you go through a life-altering situation, whether it's, it's a breakup, whatever, there's going to be a lot of, baggage there. But people going to have to deal with things, at some point. Right? You can't keep sweeping things under the rug.
Yeah.
So I hope that what we've talked about here in the last couple of shows is, I hope that it has helped somebody out there to at least identify what's going on. Because it doesn't it make some sense when you can at least start to understand it, and you can say, okay, at least there's a reason for it, and that gives you some.
And then you can stop blaming yourself.
Yes,
because the person on the receiving end somehow thinks it's their fault, even though that's the mind F, right? That you're like, I know I didn't do anything, but why am I made to feel like I did this? Because you can't even say anything to the narcissist, because they make you feel bad for saying something to them about their behavior. You can catch them red-handed even in a scenario, and they will say it's not what it looks like. It's not what you think. Oh, here you go again, thinking the worst of me.
I put a short out. I'll put a link to it. I cut a little snippet from the last video that we did where I basically said that. I'm like, they'll have you confused to the point where you'll be looking in the mirror talking about, did I do it? Like maybe, is it me? Like, they're good. The manipulative tactics, they're masters at it. You're going to lose.
And they will even give you the silent treatment or stomp around the house after they made you feel bad. Like, it's incredible. It's that entitlement, the very obstinate entitlement kind of.
It's something else, man. And I think it's more common than people might want to. I mean, I think now, like, when you hear people talk about all the time, you hear people talk mental health issues and this and that. Some of it is just plain old narcissism, right? Like, just. And
they'll break you, and you'll go to them and apologize so that you can have conversation going in the house again.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's
because your brain wants normalcy. Like, your brain wants tranquility and normalcy, and I just want to get along with this person, and just what do I need to do to make.
They're in the wrong, but you're trying to find a way to bridge. Let's make this better, and it gives them more power.
Yes. Yeah, all that effort that you're doing, trying to
keep them there and keep them happy, and figure out why they're so upset when they did it to you. It's incredible.
It is a mind bend indeed. So, again, I hope everybody at least got some helpful information out of these videos that we've done. I'm going to leave the link to the WebMD article. I'll also leave a link to Ace Metaphor's TikTok page, fair use to him for that. And I'll leave one other article in there that I found that I think might help you guys out. If you're dealing with a narcissistic personality disorder, person you love, a friend, whatever, hey, there is help. There is a way forward. It can be resolved. There potentially, even though the stats may not be in your favor, but there is a way forward, at least for you. to get
Yeah.
to move forward and heal and be past and beyond it. And now that you know the signs and the traits and all of those things, you won't date another one. I guarantee you that. You will not. You may even be like, you might be a little bit over that. And now doesn't it make sense? Because we talk about this with, and doing these types of videos helps us build content for stuff like modern dating, because all this stuff plays into modern dating. Because guys, a lot of y'all are dealing with narcissistic women. And vice versa. Women are dating a bunch of narcissistic men. Like that's what's happening. Like, and social media is going to amplify that narcissism.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah.
Because it's so that's why the cycle, it gets so tough, right? People are like, I just don't understand people, and people that because people are like numb now. Like people almost like have no feelings. Like people just are just like people, like we talked about in binary ones and zeros. Like people are just like. It's weird, man. That's why, like I say on the channel, we talk about interpersonal relationships too. I want to help try to bring that back to the world in some form, like where people can at least just be social and be loose and not be just so tight and judging everybody. And
it's like, you can't say that anymore.
Relax, people. Relax. That's the problem. Loosen up. That's what society needs to do. People need to loosen up. Everybody is way wound, way too tight.
They put a whole bunch of rules on people. But
yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
We're bumping up against time. Thank you for being here once again. Like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we'll leave our anchor link as well in the link in the description box below. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Anything you want to say before we wrap up? Something. She said a lot. She was on a roll this show, because, like I said, everybody was like, "Your sister has a lot of information on this." So it's been fun. A lot more coming. Stay tuned. We don't stop here because we don't know how to stop. Thank you again. See you later.